nervous about Pokemon Winds and Waves? Come on now, look at Beasts of Reincarnation. Just a little bit of time and they could actually put out some quality just like that one. What do you mean Beasts of Reincarnation wasn't good? Hey, what's good, yo? Soul here, and welcome back to the story mode. So, first things first, a little bit of a warning. You might hear a little bit of light snoring. I am watching my friend's dog today, and I needed to get some recording done so that I could have some content out for you this week. So, this is a video featuring Cocoa Bean. She will not say or do anything. She will just snore very loudly while sitting on my foot this entire video until it goes numb. Secondly, if it wouldn't take too much time out of your day, I would extremely appreciate a like, a comment, and maybe a subscription if you've been enjoying the videos so far. Like I said, I am bringing back Soul Ramble mode so that you guys are getting a little bit more content a little bit more often, but videos like these, the more heavily and edited scripted stuff, is not going anywhere. I can promise you that much at least. My incentive to do so is just making sure that you guys are enjoying the content. So, once again, if you could do me those favors, it greatly helps out the channel. If you can make sure to hype the video too, that's a new feature that's been around, it would greatly assist me and I would appreciate it so much. I'm thinking we might as well go ahead and try and set up the giveaway for Pokemon Winds and Waves once we hit 11k on the channel. So if we could grow to hit that goal, that would be absolutely astronomical. Anyhow, why don't we go ahead and get into today's main topic. Now, based on the title and thumbnail, I'm sure you guys clicked on this video feeling the exact same way that I do. When it comes to Pokemon Winds and Waves, a lot of us are very hopeful and a little bit more on the optimistic side given the fact that not only did the first trailer that we saw for the game actually look pretty decent graphics-wise, but the fact that we have an entire extra year of waiting gave us a little bit more promise that this game is going to have a little bit more quality behind it. However, and I really hate to think this way, we have gotten our hopes up a little too high about certain things beforehand and have gotten burned for it. This is Pokemon that we're talking about, and in some cases, we have to be a little bit more realistic. Some things may look and seem okay on the general surface, but deeper inside, we don't know what to expect here. Which is why there are certain aspects that I am kind of nervous about when it comes to Pokemon Winds and Waves. I think that just about sets the tone for how we're going into this topic, so why don't you go ahead, get cozy, grab a nice cool Sprite, and just grab a dry turkey. Because that's delicious. Just a dry turkey. Because people like that for some reason. And let's go ahead and talk about why I'm nervous for Pokemon Winds and Waves. The first thing that I want to talk about is something that I actually brought up in one of my recent videos, and that is the possibility that the story is possibly not going to be all that great. In that previous video, I was talking about the problem that we have when it comes to sacrificial patterns with Pokemon games. Since we've gotten to 8th gen, it always feels like something has to be sacrificed for something else to be a little bit better. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, it was the amount of Pokemon. They cut half of the Pokédex for more visual fidelity, quote unquote. Of course, there are certain aspects within that they didn't really deliver on, but long and short of it is, that was the sacrifice that they decided to make. But on top of the Dexit, for some reason, they also decided to cut any form of actual story. You could say anything you want to me, you are not convincing me that any real, genuine thought went into that plotline, because there is none. When it comes to Pokemon Legends Arceus, it actually feels like a good couple of things were sacrificed. You could say whatever you want. Visually speaking though, that game, especially looking back on it now, is still rough. I appreciate the idea of them going for a very specific style and aesthetic, but for the most part, I feel like it still wasn't generally finished. Like, it wasn't the worst looking game I've ever seen or anything like that, but compared to a lot of the other games in the franchise, it's got a little bit of a rough tint to it. And next to that, we also have to remember that Pokemon Legends Arceus originally started out as the Gen 4 remakes. That was going to be a complete, from the ground up, fresh 3D remake of Generation 4 as we knew it. You can argue with me about that one all you want, but the lone room that's just sitting on the outskirts of the game in the files says otherwise. So in this case, I think that it's safe to say that not only did they sacrifice the concept of fully realized 3D remakes for Diamond and Pearl, but also a lot of the visual fidelity in favor of gameplay and mechanics. Legends Arceus was very fun. It is a good game. I think it's very solid, and I think that a lot of people can agree with that because every game after it is always getting compared to what Legends Arceus brought to the table to begin with. But because the game didn't originally start out as a Legends title, they had to sacrifice a couple of things to make sure that they got the game out at a reasonable time. Reasonable being 2 months after the rushed 1-to-1 remakes that released right before it, but we've talked about that enough. After that, we have the notorious Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. To me and probably plenty of others, it's very clear that not only was the visual fidelity sacrificed, but also general function for the sake of getting our first open world title. They also did a solid job of focusing very heavily on the writing this time around, as that's what was lacking in Generation 8. Unlike Legends Arceus though, I fear that they made the wrong sacrifice in this case because it's very hard to enjoy a solid story with solid characters if the gameplay in of itself is rough to get through. And in the case of Legends ZA, I feel like it's safe to say that the general quality of the game was sacrificed for general better function. Yeah, the game is smooth and that's great and all, but there's barely really any interactable things around the city. I can't actually interact with my Pokemon properly and bond with them. Yeah, we have 60 frames, that's great and all, but getting from rooftop to rooftop is not really a fun way to traverse the city. Also, we're stuck in one city. Generally speaking, Legends ZA just felt like it was missing a lot. Frankly, too much for a lot of people, and I can understand that frustration. The game looks generally good and it plays okay, that's great, but there's gotta be stuff that's fun to play with, especially if we're gonna be stuck in one specific setting. Believe it or not, I actually have a lot to still talk about when it comes to Legends ZA, so we'll revisit this, but long and short of it is, there was still a lot of sacrifice made to get Legends ZA on the table. So, all of this being said, I now look to Pokemon Winds and Waves with just a little bit of skepticism. Based on what we saw with that first trailer, with the general high quality and the fidelity, I would really like to believe that with our second open world game, they have really learned a lot from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and are giving us something way more high quality and way better functioning right out the gate. And knowing them, I have no doubt in my mind that they're gonna find a new gimmick and different ways to make exploring this world a lot more fun and a lot more interesting than their first attempt. So forgive me for potentially believing that the cost of that will likely be a lackluster to potentially mediocre story. Just based on the patterns that we've seen, I don't think that this is completely baseless. You're gonna hear me say this a lot throughout this video, but I am hoping that I'm completely wrong about everything that I'm gonna guess here. But this in particular is the one that I'm hoping I'm wrong about the most, so we'll have to see how they play that out. Next, and this is kind of a general one, but I'm a little nervous that the quality leap that we're probably likely going to have in Pokemon Winds and Waves still isn't going to be enough. Here's my thing. I feel in my heart of hearts that Game Freak really does have the potential to be one of the better development companies if they were to truly lock in. I'm talking all hands on deck, pulling out every possible stop imaginable to create one of the best Pokemon games that we have seen in the franchise. Despite their flounderings with games over the years and the slander that they've gotten because of it, I still fully believe that Game Freak does have massive potential as a development company to create some of the best games that we have ever seen, specifically within the Pokemon franchise, which in of itself has some of the best potential in the entirety of the gaming sphere. They can get so incredibly imaginative and creative when they want to, and we can see that in these games, but it's so horrifically overshadowed by so many other things that people don't really take the time to appreciate all the stuff that is in these games because they're lackluster in so many other ways. And I really do feel like we could potentially be looking at another situation with Winds and Waves where it's going to be exactly that. A lot of cool, neat aspects and features that are overshadowed by a couple of mishandlings and rushed development that didn't need to be there. I'm just a little bit nervous in this specific aspect because we saw a very similar situation with Pokemon Legends EA where they took that extra year, took that extra time to develop the game, only for it to still turn out pretty lackluster for a lot of people. Again, I appreciate Legends EA for what it is, and it's one of my favorite games in the franchise now, but I'm not gonna sit here and ignore the hefty flaws that are within it. Obviously, I didn't let the bad outshine the good. There's a lot of great aspects about Legends EA. But I know a lot of people don't really feel the same way as me. They're not going to be as lenient, and we are looking at a situation where they get all of the wrong ideas from the negative feedback. Maybe I'm a little in my head about this one, but as we've seen from the Terra leaks, they got nervous about releasing another set of sequels ever again because of what happened with Pokemon Black and White and Black 2 and White 2. I just don't want them to get the wrong idea about the creativity that they clearly have. So I guess what I'm saying is that by the time that we see Pokemon Winds and Waves, I hope we do see an indefinite and inevitable quality leap that nobody can deny. That next trailer, I want to see some potential. I want to see it run like butter, play like butter, and a story that tastes like absolute buttered toast. That analogy is terrible, but I'm gonna keep it in because it's kind of funny. It's stupid. Winds and Waves has to be the game that gets the franchise back into people's good graces, because after Scarlet and Violet and Legends EA, a lot of people are tuned out of Pokemon, and that's a little scary. Another thing that makes me nervous is the amount of Pokemon that we're allegedly receiving this time around. To my understanding, this is not something set in stone. This was just a rumor based on potential leaks, but it is possible that Pokemon Winds and Waves might actually have the biggest number of new Pokemon that we have ever received before. Why does this make me nervous? Because I'm really praying that we don't have a quantity over quality situation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what got Generation 5 in trouble with a lot of people. I think this is a pretty straightforward one to be nervous about, right? I just don't want a lot of duds when it comes to the new Pokemon designs. Because I can't lie, there's definitely a lot of Generation 9 Pokemon specifically that I just did not really vibe with all that much. Obviously, there were some real good standouts, Cerulege, Armorogue, Tinkaton, and stuff like that. And then there were Pokemon like that Dung Beetle one. It might be good. I don't know. I've never actually used it, so I'm not going to judge it too harshly, but design-wise, I was never interested. I can't front. Regardless, let's just hope that all of this extra time they're taking is being put into the efforts of designing these new Pokemon as well. One of the next major things that I'm definitely nervous about is that we are going to be following in the same footsteps as Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and we're going to be reutilizing how we had the open world format before. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm totally fine with having an open world game. The problem with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was that I wasn't really incentivized to explore that open world all that much, and I want these games to really take advantage and utilize its full world. As I've mentioned in a video quite recently, I believe, I'm very scared that not only are we probably not going to have side quests to help us invest ourselves into this world, into these people that are living in this region, but we're also not going to have buildings to enter inside of, and it's going to be a completely outside experience devoid of having like real shops and stuff like that to explore. Because I get it, I understand that in reality, it's not the most necessary thing to have shops that are actually enterable and detailed and stuff like that when they could focus on literally everything else in the open world in of itself. But there's definitely a heavy vibe that was missing from not being able to actually go inside these places, talk to these NPCs, and get a general idea of what living in their city is like based on what they say. And also, probably the most important aspect is the fact that I don't want to be greeted by menus. That's so lame. Being greeted strictly with a text box and then a long ass menu is probably one of the most impersonal things they probably could have done. I didn't mind them inevitably merging the Pokemon Center and the Pokemart into one big thing, but I feel like them not being separated and also not being able to actually go inside of them and actually meet people kind of hurts the vibe a little bit. And based on the generally tropical design of the region so far from what we've seen, yeah, I think it's fair to say that my fears will not be alleviated in any way, shape, or form in this realm. So, unfortunate, but at least if they can make shopping at least a little bit fun or interesting in some way, I'll be able to breathe. But I'm not kidding when I say that I will genuinely dropkick somebody if I am greeted specifically by menus at a restaurant or something like that. Let me go inside, sit down at a little tiny restaurant, whatever. Doesn't matter how big the inside is, just an actually designed restaurant, and have food ordered. So I could power up my Pokemon or whatever. So I can power up like my Sparkle or whatever the hell is outside. You know what I'm saying? Just a little something something is all I'm asking for. The next thing that I'm really nervous about is actually the customization. I've talked about this a couple of times. The first time I ever mentioned it was in a video a while back, talking about the fact that I have hope that customization going forward will actually get better after Legends EA, but more recently I've come to understand that the customization was as good as it was because of the setting and because it was a full circle situation from Pokemon X and Y where customization was first introduced. So they needed to make sure that the direct sequel gave us pretty much all the stops. They went out of their way to give us some of the best customization we had ever seen in a Pokemon game. I think I made a full dedicated video on this too. But one thing I did say recently is that we did have an older protagonist in Legends EA as well. I don't know if they're going to allow nearly as much freedom with, you know, our regularly aged protagonists. So I have a gut feeling that the customization is not going to be nearly as depthful. And that's a little scary and a little unfortunate, but again, I hope that I'm completely wrong on this. I want to see what they do with actual customization options, hairstyles, the clothing, shoes, the whole works, gang. I want to see all of it done right. After that, one of the next biggest things that definitely scare me is the very real situation that we will be receiving the same boring gym format. I've been saying this for a very long time now, but I really do fully believe that the gym format in generational titles is very dated and stale. And I felt that it was definitely at its weakest, for me personally, in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where I was not attached at all to the idea of battling these 4 randos that kind of popped up every now and again. Of course, there's some aspects about their characters that are kind of neat, but overall it was just the same old, and it didn't really feel like anything new or special by the time we got to it. I still, to this day, fully believe that Generation 8 probably did the gym format in the most interesting way, mostly because they got the general vibes right. Like, yeah, sure, the general progression is the same. You go into a massive puzzle, you finish that, you fight a couple of trainers within the gym, and then you fight the gym leader. However, when you do fight the gym leader, it's actually treated as a sport. You have an entire arena of people watching you, watching this battle play out, and they're probably streaming it on, you know, the internet or on national TV within the world of Pokemon. And I feel like that made for the correct vibes. Not only that, but the Elite Four was completely replaced with a tournament style system that frankly made way more sense, not only for reutilizing characters that have been present throughout the entire story to see their fully developed teams, but to also give us a more realistic depiction of how something like this should go. All of these different trainers, all of us fighting and getting through all of these gym badges and stuff like that, becoming the strongest that we can, everybody should be able to participate in a major like tournament style situation to prove who should actually go up against the champion. It makes the most sense. So doing that, going into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and having the same boring gym format, and then coming off of that and going into Legends ZA with the Battle Royale, a point-based system that I've been asking for forever, and you know, now I'm starting to resent the traditional gym system. At this point, frankly, I don't even care if it's some form of copy and paste of what we had in Generation 8. We do not need, I'm fully under the impression that we don't even need the Elite Four anymore. Like, there's nothing elite about them. I'm so sorry. And if there is a very real possibility that we're reutilizing the triple story format from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for open world games going forward, then they need to find a new way to make the gym storyline more interesting. And the best way to do that is to not give it to us in the very traditional, samey way that we've had since Generation 1. It is time to switch up a little bit. Low-key, I might need to make a full dedicated video on that. It might be a ramble mode, because you heard that, right? I got heated. That's genuinely how I'm feeling about that gym system, man. Something needs to change here. Moving on, before I blow a gasket, the last major thing that gives me just a little bit of pause is the very real possibility, and likely future, if we're being completely honest, that we're going to have another no post-game DLC replacement situation. Easily, by and far, the worst thing about Pokemon moving to the home console generation is the fact that we have now completely replaced real post-game, real stuff to do after you have claimed your championship in the generational titles and even in, you know, the post games of the Legends titles, there's nothing to do with the post game. The post game is usually whack as hell and completely empty, and the real post game comes through once you get the DLC. But it's like, what do you mean I have to wait like a quarter to half a year to pay for the other half of the game? Like, what are we doing? Like, what? It's so, it's not a great practice. I can't lie. It's very, very greedy business practice. And it feels like we are getting completely unfinished games. No, we are getting unfinished games. What am I saying? Feeling like we are getting unfinished games that are getting completely paywalled for the rest of them. And it sucks to think that that's what's happening, but I mean, it is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we're probably looking at a very similar situation in which we do probably get Pokemon Winds and Waves at the end of next year. And then we have to wait half a year and have to pay half the price for the DLC. And that is just... that's not a good look. It is not a good look. So what I'm saying here is that I'm at least hoping that we do get some actual genuine post game this time around, something worth investing into after we have beaten the main story, so that we could have a little bit of fun after we've beaten the game, and then eventually we'll get the DLC and we'll be enamored all over again. I don't want to have to go into a situation where it's just like, yep, there's nothing to do now, train up your Pokemon or whatever, and then prep for the DLC next year. That sucks. But unfortunately, that's likely our reality, given the fact that they've been doing this for almost a decade now, since Generation 8. Whatever the case may be, I don't know. They had an extra year. Let's hope that they put just a little bit of that effort into the post game as well. So with all of that being said, that just about does it for this one. Generally speaking, I'm still on the verge of excitement for Pokemon Winds and Waves. I'm sure once we see a little bit more, I will have a lot more to look forward to. But as we sit here with our thoughts, with pretty much absolutely nothing to go into this next major Pokemon Presents with in what, February, which is months from now, it's kind of easy to sit with all these thoughts and think, you know what? Based on previous patterns, I feel like there are some things that we could be reasonably scared about. And I don't want to sit there like that and be that way, but you know, I have to be a little bit more realistic. And the reality is, the company and its money will always come first. So I just hope that I'm really wrong about a lot of these aspects and that they actually blow me away with whatever they present next. But you know what? Maybe that's just me. So that just about does it for this one. If it wasn't clear, I feel like I've kind of settled on a format where the earlier days in the week are probably just gonna be a couple of shorts, and then I'll do a fully dedicated, heavily edited video like this one, and then I will have 1 or 2 ramble modes throughout the week, probably about 2 ramble modes, just so that we can have the ball rolling just a little bit more. And then, you know, obviously in between, if I have the time to do so, I would like to do some more streams and stuff for you guys. I am still working on my Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green hardcore Nuzlocke that I am currently stunted on right now because I have a lot of grinding to do, but we will get back to that soon for anybody that's waiting for it. I promise you that. But that being said, again, if you ever want more of me, I'll be more present on this channel, but also my second channel, Soul Side Quests, is definitely going to have a lot more variety. We talk about a lot of different things over there: Sonic, Kingdom Hearts, Zelda, general Nintendo. I really want to play Yakuza. Really want to play Yakuza and stuff like that, and other RPGs. Trials of the Sky is coming up next, so we'll see what happens with that. So if you are interested in seeing more of me, make sure to go subscribe over there. But as of right now, I've said my piece, so I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over in your direction, and I want you guys to tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below. How are you feeling in general about my nervous aspects? My nervous aspects, the things that I'm scared of with Pokemon Scarlet or Winds and Waves. Do you agree that these are things that are reasonable to be nervous about? You think that there's a lot of things that they probably won't deliver on, and if they do deliver on it, it'll be in a very similar fashion to previous games that were kind of a problem? Sorry again. Or are you on the opposing side? Just eradicate this list. It's gonna be fine. The games are gonna be good. Or maybe just stop talking about it because Pokemon is always going to be bad. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I'm always going to be down there with you guys. But with that, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and do just that. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gone. So thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!
fly.